Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. This is Jessica Grasso, Deputy Commissioner at the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. I believe in leading beyond the W, being a support leader behind the scenes to provide the best championship and event experience for student athlete, coaches, and membership. My leadership style has grown over the course of my career due to NCAA leadership development programs such as Pathway Program and Achieving Communicative Success. These type of programs have had a huge impact and have helped shape the leader I am today.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. I am joined by Kurt Svoboda. Kurt is the Associate Athletics Director for Communications and Public Relations.
Yeah, very well said, Ty.
Okay, excellent. At University of Michigan. Happy to have you on.
I'm happy to be here, Ty. Long time, first time,
Okay.
as they say in the industry.
Yeah.
But, the work that you do, the work Stephanie does, CSA, all of these incredible resources that we have in this industry that didn't exist several years ago.
Right.
It's a blessing, and it's a true gift for people who want to get better day by day, have a growth mindset. And so just the wealth of information that's out there right now and can be asynchronous and, consume it when it works within somebody's professional schedule. It's an incredible gift. So thanks for what you do.
Which is excellent. Do me a favor and correct me on your last name.
Svoboda.
Svoboda.
You did great.
I don't like messing up people's name, right? Somebody's name is the sweetest sound to their ears, so you want to make sure you get it right.
I have one of these little irrational things. When I've started new jobs at new places,
Okay.
The question comes up of what your email address is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my anxiety things is asking, please don't make me have my last name
right.
as the email address.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
reading that over the phone several dozen times every single
becomes
day
an
gets
issue.
pretty old.
Yeah. So what I know about you is that you consider yourself an HR professional, right? You work in communications, but I wonder, when you think about college athletics, you think about what I've been thinking about is work identity versus home identity, who I am versus what I do. I wonder about some of your thoughts about that. You've been in Michigan for 9 years, and I know you have a lot of thoughts around people, right, which we both know to be very important. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on that topic.
Well, I think people is at the center of everything we
Yeah.
do, and that's nothing earth-shattering. But in athletic departments, the student athlete's at the heart of everything, and I just think about people and their backgrounds, their perspectives, where they come from in their own life. Everybody starts at a much different place, and thinking about my own experiences where I've started from, I think has led me naturally to be a little bit more focused on that.
Okay.
And really seeing the true person behind the words or behind the title or behind the job description. And when we consider what we're, frankly still coming out of over these last couple of years, what better thing than to have empathy and to truly see people for who they are with what we're going on in our professional worlds, in concert with living our lives. And so I say this over the years. I have been in charge of technology, crisis communications, external revenue generate. At the end of it, none of it means anything if your people are not doing very well. And so in that way, I say over these past 3 years, I've been an HR practitioner, and it's got to be people first.
How has that manifested itself? Tell me about the things you've done that when you have these thoughts, how they actually go into action.
Right.
over the
Well,
last 3 years.
I think it becomes interesting. I'm fascinated by organizational behavior and people, and how do you bring people from different backgrounds together, people who are at different journeys in their lives, and the twists and the turns that every life takes. On top of that, you layer in, Ty, the reality that when you're working in athletics, you are signing up for. It's not maybe 24/7, but it's there. Right. Games, nights, weekends, holidays, the phone rings, you have student athlete issues that come up, staff issues, people traveling all over the country representing your university, and just all of the issues that can surface at that time. You build on top of that, and you say the reality is, the people who work with me and for me, we're a family, and we have to be a family first. And so you have to care about the people before they can bring the best version of themselves to work. Within that, right, we can be a dysfunctional family, just like everybody else. Everybody doesn't want the same things at the same time. You have disagreements, you have conversations. And so I'm fascinated kind of with that arc of relationship with people and helping people get to where they want to be in life.
Yeah, I understand that, right? I've been doing some work recently on helping people to unveil their core values, right? And tie those core values to strengths and answer the question, who am I, right? And I wonder about that when you're talking, especially when you've been in an industry long enough. You said roughly 25 years or something
Yes,
like
sir,
that. You've been in the
25 years.
industry long enough to understand that people are the thing that make this thing go around. I wonder about helping people sit down and understand that let's establish, or let me help you find who you are, because you'll be a better teammate, you'll be better at home in the family, and you'll be better at helping us execute whatever purpose we're trying to execute here. So talk to me a little bit about that in terms of core values and understanding core values and helping people to unveil what they believe they are about.
Absolutely, and it's such a great question. And I've had the opportunity, because I've been at some amazing schools. One of the gifts that I've been given is to be at some very different schools culturally. I've been East Coast, hustle and bustle, where you show everybody how hard you're working and you're uptight. I'm wearing a suit right here as I talk to you. I go out on the left coast, not at all. It's ducks on a pond.
Yeah.
Everybody's working feverishly, but you don't show it. That's just not how it
Yeah,
goes.
exactly.
And now I'm Midwest nice, and so you think about it, I have been a student of people and culture and organizational behavior, and so there's also this reality that every place that I've gone to, it can be like like an organ transplant. I'm actually the new, organ, and the body can reject me if
Right.
it's not the right culture or the right situation. When I have had opportunity to kind of turn over a staff or be established and just hiring in a specific role, I reach people on the human level first, and it is, where are you going in life? How does this fit? What are your hopes and dreams? And it has been interesting from place to place. There are some people who get really excited to dig in on that. There are some people who are not at all excited.
Right.
You get like kind of the human element and anxieties. Well, you're asking me about this, and where am I going? Does this mean that I don't have a role where I currently am? And just trying to find, how do you read people, and how do you have that conversation and make them truly know, hey, I'm going to love you. I'm going to care about you, even if you don't want me to show the love for you, and just figure out like where's baseline, where's even keel for each relationship that you have in the office, and then how does it relate to how the whole organization works together. It's something that it's not art, it's not science, it's somewhere in between, and I love the challenge.
Yeah. The process of helping people understand who they are.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because if you've had to hire or separate from people, there's definitely an aspect of that. Tell me about how you've done that in the past.
Right. I think it becomes hard, right,
Yeah.
if you have to make that separation or transition, because the person is number one and their situation, and I have to represent my university, our values, our mission, the work that we have to do day to day. Can the two coexist? Can they grow? Can there be give and take between the two? Individual situations come up, you meet them, as a human first, and empathy, and maybe a situation comes and goes and you revisit it. But then does it happen again? Does it happen again? And then so you truly want to have honest conversation. I think back to all the people that have come in and out of my life. I've actually lived a pretty charmed professional journey. I've had people who have moved with me from school to school. I've had people leave me to develop elsewhere and come back to me. I've had people that I've hired 3-4 times at 3 or 4 different schools. And when you're able to reconnect and have them know that this is a personal journey that we're on, and here's how it lines up with a professional journey or the needs of the role or where the growth can be. It's a beautiful thing when those things can come together. And so I'm just increasingly focused on that.
So I do some coaching, right? Coach people in, as I mentioned, unveiling their core values and tying their core values to their leadership philosophy, super strength, superhero power, and those types of things. And a lot of people don't know how to delineate their work between what they do. And then when they do, they don't know how to delineate their job description from like the formal things they do and the informal things they do that all could probably add into their evaluation in terms of what they do. And then you couple that with people tie their work identity with what they do when they go home, and then you get into problems and people are sleeping and drinking enough water, right? So talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on all those things and how they have helped you to be successful at what you do.
Yeah, Ty, I appreciate it. And the last part of what you just said resonates with me. And that could be an hour-long conversation,
Yeah,
right? You get into some unhealthy space. But You've got, it's such a fascinating thing, college athletics, because you're developing young people socially. You're hoping that you can pull them in and help them to experience all things that a vibrant university has to offer, develop socially as young people, learn what it means to be part of a highly functioning team. And we're doing the same thing with developing young people on our teams who might come in as individual contributors and then show an opportunity or an aptitude to get a little bit more opportunity and manage and then lead and then grow from there. But as you're doing this with developing young people, you're doing it with young people on your staff and people at other journeys in their professional life on staff. And so you're right, how do you articulate that you're ready for growth, you're ready for more, or be okay with the aspect of pulling back from it? How do you connect the dots? So, what I do talk to people about is, asking them to describe the difference between the job they were hired for, what's on your resume, the job you actually do, because it's often very different, how your job actually connects the dots within the athletic department, to the student athlete experience or to the mission, to the brand of the university, and then what is at the root of your job. And at some point in there, I would hope that they mention people at the end of the day, right? Because it all does come back down to people. But I have very strong views on the role of athletics in higher education, and it's personal for me. And so I think that I've been able to connect with people on those points. And to your point, it's not such a small example, helping people articulate what their core values are. But if your core values doesn't immediately start with family, friends, loved ones, people, we're probably not going to be very aligned.
Yeah, right. And even if those aren't my core values, if I have taken the time to establish core values, there probably are some sub-bullet points that tie into those types of things. I appreciate that. I do have something on what you said. In my mind, I have a concept that says the big picture is made up of many small pictures, right? And that ties to, if you have a purpose for the organization, where we talk about academics, the purpose of athletics is to enhance the academic mission of the university. Well, everybody knows the purpose, right? Well, people need to know how their role helps the organization execute its purpose. And then people need to know how their role helps individual department to do what it needs to do to hit the goals that help to execute the purpose. And that's exactly what you just said, right? What is your job title? What's on your resume? What are you actually doing? And how does what you do help us to be successful as an athletics department? Those are all excellent things. Thinking about being at Michigan for 9 years, right? Of course, I'm a Spartan. I'm going to take a jab. But I'm a Spartan, but I do appreciate Michigan because both my parents work for Michigan, right? You work for War Manual, and you talk about somebody at an institution that has to make all those super high-level decisions and figure out how to use these resources. And people think out of Michigan you have a big amount of resources, but resources are relative to wherever you are, right? So I wonder about what you do. The title says Communications and Public Relations. What is your role in terms of executing the overall purpose of the institution?
Well, I think, executing on a day-to-day, somebody, maybe crudely, you might boil it down to crisis communications, leading the communications of Michigan. Something's in the news, chances are, that information is flowing either to us or through us or from us. But at the end of the day, we're influencing the narrative around Michigan athletics, which influences the narrative around the University of Michigan, which may Ann Arbor, Washtenaw County, Southeast, right? And it truly grows from there. And you think about economic impact reports and all of those. But I don't even start the conversation there, Ty. I talk about issues management. If we're not focused on issues that either are arising, may arise, or might be in the news somewhere else, if we're not actively thinking about those things day to day, then that becomes a crisis potentially at Michigan. And so if you're thinking about it from that perspective, it is brand protection, awareness, being on the offensive. And at the end of the day, maybe more specifically to your question, my job is to support Ward, to head off things that maybe he can't be focused on at any one time with all of the people who need his time and his attention. And so who has he surrounded himself with? And can we all, the sum of the parts, can we all do our, in the football terms, right, do your 1/11th on the field and make sure that now we're a comprehensive unit that then we are therefore helping Ward, protecting U of M, and serving our community at the end of the day.
Is there issues management, right?
Issues
Especially in
management.
communication. Is there an aspect of we have a manual of if-then statements that we need to execute on? If this happens, then we'll do this. If this happens, then we'll do this, to where everybody's trained in regularity for the things that could commonly happen.
100%, Ty. We have that. We have different circumstances, different, we ideate on things all the time. And when it happens, it can be really helpful to open that manual, and it's the communications ladder. And so-and-so is responsible for this. You know, are we communicating to our regents, to the VP of Comms office? Who's responsible for incoming inquiry? Who's going? And it's amazing because it can be everything from, in today's day and age, you know, social media accounts getting hacked. Or content on there that you're not responsible for, or you don't want representing your university, and then how are you taking it to education if it involves a current student athlete? And so who needs to be brought into the fold? So we have this all. It's pretty regimented, and you also have to have that willingness to afterwards do an exercise where you revisit everything that happened and be open and honest and be. I love talking about failure, Ty. I think in terms of like leadership development, improvement, failure is really underutilized. Where did we mess up, and how can we get better in the future? And I challenge my staff in those situations. Do not sugarcoat anything that I was involved in. Tell me what I could have done better.
Critique, right.
And can we use those opportunities to lift up other people? There might be folks in the office who have no formal role in what we're doing, but it's incumbent upon me to make sure that I bring them along either as an observer, or make them feel empowered to offer some kind of insight, and or to pull them in on the back end of it and kind of run through it as a case exercise.
Which I think is excellent. I'll ask a couple questions here and then we'll wrap. The first one, the vigor that you put into analyzing failure, do you put that same vigor into analyzing success to understand what we did to help us get this win?
It's a great question. My honest answer might be no.
Okay.
I think that I come from a background of failure, and I kind of wear it as a badge. It might be the same thing of a coach or a student athlete. You know, they're tortured more by the losses than they 100%. Are.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So I think I'm built in that mold, and if we did it right, well, we're supposed to do it right. You know, we're a highly resourced department. We've got professionals. Right. We've got so we should do that right. Maybe we should celebrate our successes a little bit more. Maybe we should, pump our chest a little bit more than we do.
Well, there's an aspect of celebrating, but that's not necessarily what I mean. Liken it back to playing for Coach Saban at Michigan State, right? Every game, after the game, we grade ourselves, right? Win or loss. And in grading yourself, you understand what you did well, so that if the opportunity comes, it's just like this if-then book that I mentioned, right? You understand what you did well, so now it becomes an if-then statement. So if that happens again, we know how to execute on that. So that's what I mean by analyzing the wins, right? Not necessarily celebrating. We can do that. But if you're an overachiever, like it sounds like you are, just like I am, like a lot of us are, we did that, we practiced, we did well, we're going on to the next thing. But I think there's some value probably in analyzing the wins. And you have to have done it, whether you know it or not, if you have this manual, a formula of how do we handle these different things.
And how can you make it repeatable?
Exactly.
And it is an interesting thing, you know, in the comms world, in the marketing world, revenue generation, there might be this aspect of we did it, it was successful, now we move on to the next thing. I'm usually challenging people the power of repeating your messaging.
Exactly.
And it goes back to kind of our brand awareness. We actually talk about audience segmentation. Not all messages are meant for all audience members on all platforms at the same time. And so we're really thoughtful about when everything from ticket on sales come on to communicating about a coaching change or something like that. What's the rhythm? What's the timing? What's the execution? What's that look like? And then to your point, in the future, here's what we did well. Here's what could have been done better. The next time, you tweak it, you tweak it. Yeah, so you're right. So we have elements of that for sure.
Right, yeah. I probably needed to ask that question different. So
no, it's great. Thank you.
I'll ask this last question, then we'll wrap. What I understand about you is that you are a personal and professional development person. Whether I've heard about it before, in this conversation, I can tell there are a number of different programs out there in terms of college athletics to help people develop to who they are. What I know and very familiar with, and the sponsor of this podcast, is NCAA Leadership Development. So I wonder about your interaction with them and that program, and has that helped you any?
the leadership development program with the NCAA has been incredible. It has transformed my life. And we talk about college athletics, like if you're working in a college athletics department, you want to transform and change the trajectory of young people's lives, right? I think so many of us get into it because of that. But then you think about it, in order to do that, you have to develop the people who are supporting the student athletes. And so I say this freely. I think that the NCAA over these last couple of years, much deserved criticism across the board about how flexible can the organization be? How much can we change during transformative times? Within that, Ty, the leadership development program has just blown me away year in and year out, what they do to support our young people in the industry and then to support staff that have been through that. And so, yeah, I've been very focused on it. I would say I'm growth mindset. I'm a lifelong learner. But it's not just saying those words. It's truly living it every day. I fought like heck to get into the NCAA Pathways program for years. Rejected,
Really?
undeterred. I'm going to get in it. And I spent the last year and I graduated. So the Pathway program is for those who aspire to be athletic directors. And, there's not a lot of people that get put into that program. And I think about it again, connecting the dots. I don't say this with any kind of pride. I say it with like a little bit pissed off about it, Ty. At the Division I level, I'm the first person with a pure comms background to ever be put into the Pathway program.
Okay.
And when you think about the issues that we face today in college athletics, that athletic directors face, the political issues, the donor issues, campus, all those things, we're talking about communications.
Yeah.
And so if I can, in my role, inspire people and pull people along to say, hey, you can do this, you can develop, you can change how you think about things, whether it's design thinking or just your day-to-day, I want people to call on me because I think that there's a huge opportunity for added representation at the highest levels of the NCAA. But speaking specifically, Dee Merritt, Lamar Pottinger, they're family from here on out. They're two of the biggest influences in my life. And an incredible gift. Peter Roby, a legendary athletic director, put us through our paces during that program, and I'm so much better off. And you think about, whether you go to conferences, whether you're consuming your content or all of this content that's out there that we've talked about, you're trying to build your network and you're trying to constantly grow and challenge yourself. And so this leadership development program, they have so much programming specifically aimed at underrepresented groups, at people who are early stages of their career, mid-career, late, first-time athletic director. I don't think it's a story, frankly, that the NCAA has told to its fullest extent yet. And how can we as an industry help shine the light on all of the incredible development that's going on
which
here.
I think is excellent. You talked about being someone who understands how to control the narrative, right? I appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast. This is a very interesting and educational conversation. Thank you very much, Kurt.
Thank you, Ty. It's been my pleasure.
Yes, sir. That was Kurt Svoboda. Kurt is the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Public Relations, among other things, at University of Michigan. And, of course, I am Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.